Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast. This is Ben Kinney, joined with Chad Hyams and Bob Stewart. Crickets? Hello!
Hello, we're here.
I'm not here. I left.
Ladies and
I'm
gentlemen,
putting my mask back on.
it's the end of the day. We're ready to rock and roll. We just delivered you an episode about the two things that every business needs. What were they? Leads and talent. But somebody the other day asked me a question. Where do you find this talent? I thought to myself, I wonder where they've been looking. So I opened up my phone and I went on Amazon and I started scrolling. There was no talent available.
eBay.
You could eBay some talent.
Bid on talent.
Facebook Marketplace,
Craigslist casual encounters.
Yeah.
Like,
Whoa.
ladies and gentlemen, where do you find talent? That's not the right question. The right question is, are you always looking for talent? And do you have the skills, with a Z, skills, to bring those people into your world?
I'm sorry, that's not how it goes. It's actually, do you have the skills to pay the bills? That's how it goes.
Skills to pay the bills, ladies and gentlemen. How do you find talent? I'll give you an example. My organization is built up of individuals that I've met over my life. Some people I went to middle school with that work at our companies.
Yep.
Some people I met when I was teaching classes 10 years ago. So, Bob, we met right at another company that we both worked for, right? Chad, you and I met.
You were teaching a class. I brought you to town to teach a class.
The guy that nobody hears, but everybody hears of, Dave in the background. We met, referral of a friend, somebody else that was working at our company. That guy used to own a company in town that we used his services. He sold it. We stayed in touch.
I know you've met successful people that poured coffee for you.
I've hired people from
Sold
coffee
cars.
shops. A guy that knocked on my door trying to sell me a vacuum.
Right.
The lady who did my taxes at a tax firm in town works at our company.
Yep.
A lady from the airport, because I flew so much, we got to know them now in the company. So talent is everywhere. Are you open to it? And are you willing to play the long game? What's a long game, Chad?
Growth?
No.
The long game, you just said, like, you might not close them and bring them or have an opportunity for them today, but you might a year from now, 5 years from now.
Yeah,
For you and I, it was 7 years later.
You may never.
Yeah.
Are you willing to invest in relationships long enough that when the right opportunity comes along, you end up working together?
You know, I want to challenge you with a thought, a question right there on that as you say that. Because I remember a guy that you brought to me one day and you said, this guy's talent. And you had him answer a few questions that you put him on the spot for, and the kid was sharp. And I remember looking at you and saying, we don't need anybody right now. And you said, no, this kid's talent. We will find a place for him, because if we don't now, he won't be available when we're looking for talent like that. So sometimes it's the long game and you're going to stay in relationships. And then some pieces of talent are just going to show up that you're going to be willing to find a piece and a place for them until they can grow into the right opportunity for you.
Yeah, for sure. You got to strike when the iron's hot, right?
Sure.
You're going to find people that say, you know what, I'm looking for an opportunity, and you're going to have to make the decision, do I have space, availability, or money to make room for that person? And you're going to meet with other people that say, I'm really happy where I'm at, and I feel like I'm on a good path, but I could see myself in a couple of years getting to a point where I'm no longer challenged. And you could say, would it be okay if I reached out to you at that point and we talked about opportunities together? If that person said, yeah, I'd be open to that, I say, okay, I'm going to ask you one last thing. Just do me one favor. Promise me that before you look at another opportunity, even if somebody offers you one, you'll at least sit down with me and we'll have a conversation.
So what you're telling us here is talent is everywhere. As long as we're open to looking for it, we're going to stumble upon it. We just have to be ready to play that long game in certain situations and that short game in other situations, depending on where we are and how the talent shows up.
In the previous episode, Chad, we said we need two things. What were those two things?
Leads and people. Leads
But
and talent.
we also need leads for people.
Correct.
Your business needs leads for customers. You need good people in your world, but you also need leads for people. Or in the sports world, we need a bench. In the sports world, what's a bench mean?
It's the players that aren't playing right now, but when somebody can't play, those guys are stepping in.
So we're going to talk today a little bit about recruiting and the skills that make a great recruiter.
Between his singing, his rap speak now, and his sports references in the last few recordings, there is something going on with Ben Kinney.
We're going to talk about the skills with no frills because it's what pays the bills.
Wow. There it is,
Ladies and
Chad.
gentlemen.
There it is.
Drop the mic, we're done.
Oh my gosh. So let's talk about the very first part of a recruiting, hiring conversation. I would call that the intro call.
Okay.
Now, an intro call for me, it could be random, it could be a cold call, or it could be response to somebody making an application. But let's say they didn't make an application and you don't know if they're available. I want you guys to think about the words that you use when you reach out to somebody who you want to explore the opportunity of working together. Some people might call that person and say, hey, I have an open position. I'm curious if you'd be interested in applying for it. Or sometimes they do a really coy approach where they'd say, hey, I know you're happy where you're at, but maybe you know somebody else that might be interested. We're currently hiring for this position.
Not the way you do it, though, either of those?
You know, in the past, when I lacked the skills, when I had all the frills, the things that didn't necessarily pay the bills, I had to resort.
Can't believe he's going to keep doing that.
I had to resort to those types of things. But now I don't like wasting time because wasting time is a crime.
Oh, look what you started.
I can stop on a dime.
Is this my fault? I'm sorry. I apologize.
Everybody, please send your messages to Bob. It's not my fault.
You know, I just prefer to be more direct.
Yes.
So if I was to give somebody a call today, it might sound like, Bob, just out of curiosity, I've heard a lot about you. I've seen your name around town. We haven't had the opportunity to meet. Would you ever be open to an opportunity of us working together if I could find something that was a win for you and a win for me?
I like to call this like you in our previous sales career, you would use a line that was, hey, are you interested in a great deal? And you called that a stupid test, right? Because who says no to a great deal? And so I think there's something in the way you approach that one as well, right? Like if somebody that's not open to a potential opportunity that they don't even know what it is, like
You don't want to get into business with that person if they're not interested in that question.
Yeah, I mean, why would you ask somebody a question where one of the options was no? Right? That doesn't make any sense. It's the wrong question. Ask the right question. And
Right.
Bob says, if they do say no to this, it just means they're dumb, D-U-M, right? You want to make sure that you're asking somebody the right question. The right question for me is, Bob, would you ever consider an opportunity where we could work together, assuming that it accomplished your financial goals and the amount of hours you wanted to work, and there was a big opportunity in the future? Would you be open to that? The worst case scenario that Bob would say is, I don't know. I don't really know you. Say that.
I don't know, Ben. I mean, I don't even know what you're thinking.
You know, that's exactly why I called today. I was hoping that we could get together, and before we even talk about opportunities, let's get to know each other and see if we even like each other. Because one of my rules, Bob, is I only work with people I like. I like to work hard and be kind and hang around with people that I enjoy. Would you be open just to getting to know each other?
Yeah, sure. That sounds good. I've heard your name here in the community. Sure.
Now, let's say that Bob was considering this offer that I gave him. A wrong way to approach it would be, hey, Bob, I own this company in town. I want to see if you would like to come work for me. Now, my goal is to get Bob to come work for me.
Right.
But Bob doesn't want to come work for anybody. He's already a talented person, right? So my conversation with him is, Bob, would you be open to this opportunity for us to partner together? Now, if I'm working with Bob and I'm helping Bob with his income, him and I are partners. It doesn't mean that Bob is now automatically partners with Chad and Dave in the background. I'm asking him if he wants to be partners with me. Now, I have a bunch of partners in this room today, right? Mm-hmm. I'm asking Bob, would you ever like to partner together? And in a sales world or a business and something where we're doing something together, I really am applying to be your partner and you're applying to be mine. And that's what I'm asking you to do. So having the right intro conversation matters, and asking the right type of intro conversations will determine whether or not you get the meeting. When you get the meeting with this person, I want you to do 3 things in a hiring or recruiting session.
Love it. List, Theo. We got 3 things coming. Bob, thank you. Excellent.
These have 3 words, very simple. They're going to be hard to forget, but it's a framework for a recruiting or hiring conversation. It is goal, value, plan.
Goal, value, plan.
If I was to spend an hour with Chad talking to him about this opportunity, 40 minutes of it I would spend with Chad talking to him about his goals. Chad, tell me a little bit about your history. What have you done? What have you accomplished? What are you most proud of? How are you doing now? How do you feel about that? Are you living up to your potential? What would you change in your world today? If you were going to change one thing, what would it be? Would it be okay if I asked you some questions about your goals and the things that are most important to you? By the way, immediately, Bob, I would interject and say, Chad, I just want you to know that I want permission to ask you very direct questions, but I'm also going to give you permission to ask anything you want in return. And there isn't a single question that I'm going to ask you today that you don't have permission to ask me. Fair?
Fair.
I'm setting the stage on what's okay. Now, when I talk about goals, I'm talking about, tell me about your career goals. What do you want to accomplish this year? What about in 3 years or 5 years? Where do you see yourself going? Now, tell me about your financial goals. If they're open to it, tell me about your income. What'd you net? How much debt do you have?
And if you've been listening to our podcast through the other episodes, you know Ben has a stack of paper in front of him and a Sharpie during this time.
Absolutely. I'm taking notes because I want Chad to know that I care about this conversation.
Right.
But we're going to add that to the skills that pay the bills conversation in a minute. I'm asking him about his financial goals. Does he have any other sources of income? What's his net worth? Does he have a net worth goal? Does he have any health goals or relationship goals? Who are the most important people in his life? Right? Does he have any personal goals or personal dreams? I'm just looking to get to know this individual because I'm applying to be this person's partner.
And if you're having any challenges, go rewind about 1 minute and listen to that conversation again. Ben just threw at you, at least 20, 25 questions he probably just threw that easily would turn into 40 minutes of conversation as you're diving deep learning about somebody.
By the way, 25 questions that nobody else has ever asked this person probably in a professional setting like
Probably
this.
not.
Yeah, and most likely, Bob, what I'm going to do during that time, I'm going to point that out to him. Bob, I just asked you a lot of questions about your goals, and you had to think about it a bit, which makes me think a little bit, you haven't thought a whole lot about this, and probably nobody else has asked you that. Is that true? And Bob says, yeah, nobody's ever asked me about those things. I said, Bob, you've been working at your other company for 10 years. I just met you, and within 5 minutes, I'm talking to you about your life goals and what you want to accomplish. You've been there for 10 years, working your heart out, contributing your heart and soul, and that person's never once asked you? Does that feel weird to you? That feels weird to me. I ask tough questions. Because my goal is to get this person to think. So as this person goes and they start answering all their goals, that's 80% or 60% of the whole meeting. The next thing I'm going to talk about is value. Now, recruiters fail because they spend the whole time talking about the value of the company, what they do, what the benefits are, why they're so good, what awards they have, how great the product is, and that kind of stuff.
Blah.
Employees don't care.
Right.
Right? I'm going to spend my whole time talking about, hey, Chad, when I talked to you a little bit about your goals, you said that you wanted to develop your leadership skills. Let me talk to you a little bit about the leadership path at our company. One of the things, Chad, that you talked about is you wanted to build wealth and you wanted to have other sources of income. Can I give you a couple of examples on how I've been able to help other people in my company do that? And you're welcome to speak to them as well. I'll give you their names and information. They love talking to individuals in the community. Now, earlier, you said that one of the things that was important to you was time off. I want you to know that our company doesn't have a time off policy. You know why that is? Is because if you need time off, you need time off. If you want time off, you should take time off, right? You just are always going to make sure you get your job done. And if you need more time, then take more time. I don't care, right? You said that blah, blah, blah. And I start talking, everything that I give this person is related to their goals.
You're solving their problems and challenges with your values instead of just selling me or whomever on what you think your value is because it might not matter to me at all.
And because, as you pointed out, Chad, I took notes.
Yep.
I'm going line item by line item. You know, really early on in our conversation, Chad, you mentioned that this was important to you.
Right.
And you feel like if you continue where you're at, nothing's going to change, and you aren't going to have the money for your kids' college, and you aren't going to buy that house that you guys wanted, and retirement's not on track, and you said that worried you. What if I could come up with a way to help you with those 3 things? How would you feel about that? And you would say,
I'd say that'd be fantastic.
that'd be
Ben.
awesome.
Sounds like it might lead to the 3rd part of your list here.
Right? Once we're done establishing that I have value that will help you with your goals,
Yep.
we're going to end the conversation with the last 5 minutes with the P, which is the plan.
So goals, value, plan for those taking notes at home.
Value, plan. 3 words. It's a framework for recruiting, building relationships, retention, recruiting, right? Even parenting and relationships, right? It's just a framework. The last piece, plan, is all right. What's the first thing that we would do? Chad, let's pretend that we're working together.
Okay.
The first thing that we would do is we would get this thing started. If we're able to accomplish this, this is how I think it would help that value. Do you think you could do that? If you're able to do that, the next logical step would be this. And if you're able to accomplish that, this is how I think that'll show up in your compensation, in your life, in your skills, and this is what I'm willing to do for you. Now, if you can do that, how long do you think it would take you to do those 2 things? Chad says, I could probably get that done in 6 months. That's awesome. You're going to move up a lot faster in our company than other people if that really happens.
You know, it's amazing. I've had the pleasure, Bob, you've been around for a long time as well. I've had the pleasure of watching you become this person. And I can think back, and Bob, you can probably think back to when you first met Ben and you guys were traveling the country. Ben, you did not do the goal value plan to me when you and I first went into business together. You weren't doing that yet. You've grown into developing this. Yet 8 months ago, I moved back to the Pacific Northwest, and within my first week back here, we both knew obviously that this was going to happen. We had it scheduled, but within my first week back here, you and I went for a walk. We went for that, come on, let's go connect, and you're welcome and you're back. This was our walk. I mean, basically the first half of our walk was just catching up as friends as we are, and then talking about what were my goals, why did I move back, what was all that about. You didn't have to share your values. I knew the values well enough. You threw 1 or 2 things in, and we finished the walk up sitting down at Starbucks, having a drink and talking about, well, what was the plan? And this is step 1 of the plan, was the podcast. I said, that was what came from the conversation. I said, well, the easiest thing to get started right away is we need this podcast. Bam, we've cemented it. Now we can move on to check, what's item 2 on your plan? This is how you actually do it, whether it's somebody new or folks, somebody that he's bringing back into an organization that he's had. Doesn't matter what the relationship is with the person.
It's the same way we coach somebody. What do you want to accomplish, Bob? All right, this is how I think I can help you. What's the first thing that we're going to get done today? Goal, value, plan. It's just a framework. It's something I want you guys to think about. I want you to write those 3 words down, and I want you to think about your conversations. How do you walk them through this like it's a chutes and ladders game where you're going step by step through the board? Now, in order to do these things, you're going to have to work on some recruitment skills. Why do we need skills, Chad?
Oh, I'm not even saying
Pay the bills.
Pay the bills.
I got you to pay the bills.
I'm not saying it.
You know why? Because skills pay the bills, ladies and gentlemen.
So give us some of these skills. Talk about these skills.
You need communication skills.
Okay, obviously.
Communication skills, Chad, really is your ability to ask great questions.
Mm-hmm.
In order to ask great questions, you need to practice asking great questions. You need to write great questions down. When you heard me roll off those 25 questions,
Yep.
It wasn't the first time I've ever thought about asking questions.
Nope.
I've interviewed 1,000 people, right? I've recruited hundreds and hundreds of people to different companies. I've done this so it comes off easy. But if you're only in your first 1 or 2 hires, or your company only hires a couple people a year, you're going to have to spend more time on your communication skills, specifically on asking questions.
7 Powers of Questions, Ben. That's a book you've had us all take in.
Yeah, that would be an awesome one. Now, while doing that, you got to have attention to detail. Attention to detail, in my mind, is if somebody asks me the same question twice, I'm going to be irritated because it means they weren't listening. Now, I don't have a great memory and I interview a lot of people. The way that I'm going to make sure that that doesn't happen is I'm going to take notes in every conversation.
Right.
Now, we're in a litigious world. Litigious world means people get sued for things all the time, whether or not they're guilty or not, right? And one of the biggest ways that people get into legal trouble is hiring discrimination. They didn't do it or they didn't mean it, right? But they can't prove it. One way to keep yourself safer is to ask every person the same set of questions.
So would you actually, I know you know these questions so well, yet would you tell someone they should basically have a piece of paper with these questions printed in advance and just using a simple question of, Ben, is it okay? I have some standard questions I go through with everybody in this amazing opportunity that I take some time and ask you these?
Yes. And then when I was done asking that, I'd say, Chad, it's important to me that I don't forget about what we spoke about. Would you be offended if I took notes today?
Right.
And I would take a Sharpie and a blank piece of paper or in that worksheet that we printed out, and I'd start writing it in. And then every single person that I interview, whether I hire them or not, I'm going to put it in a folder named Bob Stewart or whatever the candidate's name is, and I'm not going to throw it away for 7 years.
Right.
It's because I never want a discrimination lawsuit. If somebody comes back and say, you didn't hire me because I'm old, I'm like, Chad's super old.
Why is he pointing at me?
Chad's super old. So I'd be like, no, Chad, here's why we didn't hire you. And I could show, I treated you the same way.
Did you hear though there was a pause there? He didn't have a reason. He couldn't come up with one. Once the old bit didn't work, there wasn't anything on that form.
I treated him the same as anybody else. I asked him the same questions. I just happened to have a better candidate, and I could literally get out those papers and say, Chad was awesome. We loved him. However, this one had more experience and was available sooner. And these are the answers that made me choose that person.
Got it. So
So-
communication skills, attention to detail.
Yeah.
What else do we need?
Third one, your ability to build relationship,
Okay.
to build rapport. Your ability to build rapport is how do you create commonality? How do you show up as an empathetic individual, somebody that listens and understands what that person is going through? I'll give you an example. You want somebody to like you? Ask him questions for an hour and don't ever say anything. In fact, there's a New York Times article or something about 36 questions to get anybody to fall in love with you.
Right.
It's basically you not saying anything and asking them more and more intimate questions because over time you build trust and you build rapport. Now, during that journey, as you learn to communicate is two ways, right? You're going to say, you know what, Bob, what's interesting? I didn't play basketball, but I was a wrestler in high school. And here's what my coach did. And it reminds me a lot of that. Does that sound like kind of what you were doing too? Yeah. And he's like, oh, he kind of understands. We went through that.
Yep.
And we could start building some commonality, right? And we're building rapport. That a relationship building skill does not necessarily come naturally. You need to study things like questions, body language, lying, the book Influence. Like there's lots of different things that you can read about that will develop your relationship building skills.
We're going to have to do a body language episode, which will be really interesting for everyone to just listen to. But I think we're going to have to share some of that.
My wife is constantly baffled. Like we'll go into a party or something and she'll find me across the room just, well, not these days, by the way, but talking to somebody for a long period of time. And when we walk away, she'll be like, what are you guys talking about? And I'm like, him. She's like, what do you mean him? I'm like, I don't know. I just kept asking him questions. And she's like, she feels like people always like me. And I'm like, they don't actually like me. I didn't say anything about myself.
Right.
They like the way that I was interacting with them. They like the fact that they got to talk about themselves a bunch. A lot of people like to talk about themselves, right?
Most people like to talk about themselves.
Questions really, they make you likable.
Yeah.
So one of the 7 powers of them, by the way.
Yeah. The building rapport relationship, it's followed up by you need body language skills.
Okay.
If you're going to recruit, you need to understand, is somebody bought in right now? Mm-hmm. Are they excited? Are they offended? Are they closed off? Are they open to this conversation, right? I was interviewing a gentleman once, and I thought it was going to be a great interview, but I wasn't getting what I want, and I could tell by his body language that he didn't want to be there. I just stopped the interview, and I've done this with a few different people. One person I said, hey, just out of curiosity, are you really nervous right now? And the guy said, oh, God, yes. And I said, why? He said, I don't know. You intimidate me. And I said, I don't want to do that. Let's go for a walk. And I just grabbed the person and we went for a walk. And the reason I did that was my face to face, like I stare into your eyes and your soul, because my dad was like, look me in the eyes, son, right? Right?
Even when we're in here doing the podcast, by the way,
He
Ben
does.
is looking at us and you're just like, are you talking to me? Like,
It can be intimidating.
Yeah.
But when we're walking on a trail, like Chad and I did when he came back into our world, right? We aren't face to face.
Yeah.
Well, another person, I said, hey, is everything okay? Like, I thought this conversation was going to go way different, and you don't seem like you want to be here. And the person said, no, I apologize. I got really bad news before I came to this meeting, and I can't shake it off. And I said, do you need to go? He's like, no, there's nothing I can do about it. I said, great, let's talk about it. And we spent the whole rest of the time talking about this problem this person was in and me giving him advice. Now, when we left, he said, I just want to thank you so much for doing this. You're a lot different than I thought you were going to be.
Rapport.
Yeah, I feel like you actually care. And I said, you know what? Get through this. Call me in a week. Let's get back together. Let's start from scratch.
I think it's one of your greatest skills personally is building rapport with people, because I don't know how many people I hear from that'll say who don't know you, right? No, he's intimidating, or no, he's scary, or no, I just, and then after any conversation that they ever had the opportunity, they always come, he's a great guy, right? And meanwhile, you've probably said nothing. You probably just listened to them and wanted to hear about them. You've made a skill out of building rapport with people that everybody should practice.
And a lot of that's around body language. I've watched in meetings in different places where you'll pick up on something that I don't think anybody else is, and you'll pull that thing out of somebody. What's going on, David? You look a little bit uncomfortable over there. Or you even do that with us in here. You're like, Bob, you're thinking something. What is it, right? I mean, you can just watch. You see me perk up, or my chin moves in a different direction or something. But you're very keen on those things.
That kind of goes back to that attention to detail skill of, are you going to pay attention to the different things, the little things that could cue you off? I've had individuals that said something to me and I could tell it wasn't the truth. Now, people lie for lots of reasons.
Sure.
You should read this book. It's called Can't Lie to Me. It's basically written by a CIA person, right? Well, I looked at the person and I just said, is that true? And it completely caught that person off guard and like stopped them in their tracks. And this was in an interview. And she stopped and she looked at me and she said, no, it's not true. It's all right, what's the truth? And I said, well, why'd you tell me that? She said, I was ashamed, or I was embarrassed, or I didn't think, like, sometimes lying isn't bad. It just means I hadn't earned the right to hear the truth from that person.
Sure.
I was just able to see from the body language, the pause, those little things, that it wasn't the truth. Yeah. And all I had to do was ask a question. Is that the truth? And just stare at them like your dog does by tilting their head to the side.
Head to the side a little. Yeah, it's a good.
Well,
That's number 5 on the list.
Tilt your
Silence
head.
is deafening.
Lastly, you need organization, time management skills, the ability to keep the conversation on track. It will go on track if you're the one asking questions. If they start asking you questions, they are now driving and you are no longer in control. You're no longer recruiting or moving them down the path. If somebody asks you a question, that's awesome. Bob will be like, so what about you? Do you have a dog? Yeah, I do. It's a golden retriever. His name's Hunter. He's awesome. Still a puppy. Drives me nuts. Which reminds me, Bob, in your last job, and I'm right back where I was.
Sure.
I'm taking control of the conversation.
Right.
A great recruiter has control, and they do that by managing time correctly, and they're organized because they know, hey, the very first step for me is the goal conversation. The goal conversation starts off with a life history. What have they done in the past? It works their way into where are they at today, and it ends with where do they want to be in the future. And those are the 3 things I do, and they're just following the path, right?
Yep.
The only other thing that I'd add is you need confidence. Confidence in the product or service or company that you represent. When you lose that confidence, they will see it in you. You have to believe wholeheartedly that you are going to help that person accomplish their goals.
We have one person in our world who's on the hunt for talent, and she is a phenomenal individual, and they have an amazing business. It just feels like, or I sense in her just a tiny bit of lack of confidence. She's not quite to that point where she's able to like share the vision or really, analyze somebody's goals and be able to figure out how we can add value into their life. And I feel like, man, real soon that confidence is gonna click in her, and she's gonna just blow up and be amazing because everything else is already in place. It's that last little piece.
I don't know who you're talking about, Bob, but I could probably guess 4 or 5 people.
Yeah.
They all are very confident in the company. They lack confidence in themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you got to work on that. You have to be confident. And I am so confident in those individuals because I know they care. Yeah. And since I know that they care, I know they're going to do the right thing and take care and keep up with their promises. I hope that this conversation that we had today will increase your skills so that they will
pay the bills.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, goodness.
You can't solve these things with a pill.
Stop.
But maybe one day we will.
Oh, bam!
All right, I'm jumping in here and putting a stop to this from the two of you right away. Because what we want to do is we want to take these lessons on recruiting and finding talent out there, and we want to recruit your friends to join our podcast. That's right. We want you to take this episode or any of your favorite episodes and share it with your friends. Share it on Facebook. Get it out there so they can hear the lessons you're hearing. Because if you're taking away something from it, they'll take away something from it, and they'll thank you for it. Until our next episode, remember, wash those hands. If it's law in your area, wear a mask, Bob. Until then, remember, do good.